Houston, we are go for launch in T-minus 30 seconds.
Every day I become a better operator, whatever it is, and it happens. Why? Because I don't take time off.
We are green on all engines, sir.
I only knew one way, and I knew the right way.
Initiating launch countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Boost ignition.
The Service Rocket Podcast has good liftoff. Welcome to the Service Rocket Podcast, hosted by Victor, the Rocket Man Rancour. Please enjoy the ride.
Service Rocket Podcast, episode number 3. This podcast is built and created to help you and your business scale as quickly as possible and have to skip through some of the steps that I had to going through business. Hope you guys enjoy every minute of it. Today's guest is someone that's special to our industry, special to me, someone that's changed a lot of businesses and helped a lot of people over the years. He's the industry's uncle, Mr. Uncle Joe, man. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you so much, Victor. Definitely it's a high honor to be here and a pleasure to help all the people who are viewing this. And I know you've helped so many thousands of people yourself. And I'm really happy to see that our industry is in great hands with young, energetic people like you taking the torch to the next level. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, man, it's crazy because obviously when I got in the industry, you were like everybody always talked about Uncle Joe and all this stuff, and I didn't really know much about you. I didn't really know the backstory and to really think of truly, and you've been doing this a long time now, how many people you've impacted, how many lives you've changed. It's not really comprehensible, right? Like if you really think about it, you were doing this before social media, before all this, and you were still crushing it. You were going individual company by company. Now you're jumping into the digital age and you're able to help people on a mass scale. How have you thought? How has the industry kind of changed in that light? And how has it made it easier for you to become or to help more people?
Well, it's funny. I started out in doing consulting. I had my own service business like you have here at Absolute and sold it in 2001. I realized that training is what I wanted to do, but I realized that it wasn't not quite as profitable or there's not as much money in it as running my other company. But so I realized that it was one-on-one, very similar to what Jason Walker does, going out and visiting people and things like that. And then in about 2007, we did a thing called the Hour of Sales Power, which is a podcast before podcasts. We just streamed it on Ustream, which is just go. We wound up with like 30 to 50 people on it. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And so that turned into clients. And we realized that a friend of mine, David Fry, told me is every time you talk to somebody, record an audio or video of it and put it on your website. And that's what you got to. So I just start doing it. And so you look at our website today, go back to 2005, 2007 when we started it, you'll see stuff back there that's pretty janky. that is, but it's pretty, I have a hard time taking it down because that's how the foundation of how it was built. So I think there's never been a time, I always tell all the contractors and people out there, if you are not getting the information to grow your business and give yourself sanity, both personally and professional, that's on you, because there's never been a time in history where the information is at your fingertips for free. And people will just help people. If somebody calls you or they call me, we're just, in our heart, we're like, hey, our marketing is just like yours. You help people first. And then that creates a obligation that, well, I want to get more of that. That's when they start to purchase. Make sense? And that's what I try to do. Try to create value first, then let people make the purchase they're going to make.
I think people, they're almost like scared to reach out. So like I had a guy last night, he messaged me in Messenger. I don't think he thought I was actually going to answer. But I answered right away in like seconds. He's like, what the hell? You actually answered? I was like, yeah, man, I want to help you. And he started telling me all these things going on. I was like, dude, you got a lot of things going on in your business. I gave him some ideas and I said, look, schedule my assistant tomorrow. Let's jump on a phone call. So, these people are the people that are going to learn, they're going to grow. The people that are willing to step out of their comfort zone, ask questions. A lot of people ask me, what's the key to my success? How did I go from less than 7.5 years ago doing construction, not knowing any idea what HVAC was, to where I'm at now? And it's because I've asked more questions than everybody. And I found out whoever the hell the best was at that position or whatever I wanted to be at. I said, who's the best at it? How do I go talk to that guy? How do I get around him? How do I interact with him? If I want to service sales, you got to be hitting up Uncle Joe. You got to be figuring out what the heck is he doing? Because obviously his customers are making a lot of money. Every one of his customers talks about it. And you ask somebody, you ask them, who does your training? Oh, we're Uncle Joe's. We're a service MVP customer, right? And they say it with pride because they've seen what it does in their business. Whether it's my training, Jason's training, Joe's training, if you're taking your time and you're actually investing in your employees, investing in your company, not only your employees going to enjoy it, but you're going to enjoy it too, because you're going to have the ability to make more money, which is going to provide more money for other families and be able to grow your business. So what you've done over those years, Joe, you've paved the path for the rest of us. We're all just kind of chasing you now. And even then, you've actually, I feel like you've taken the digital age and you've almost like revigorized your business. I mean, from the digital coaching, you guys have online platform, you have sales training platforms, you're able to do Zoom trainings and all this stuff. I feel like you're already ahead of most of us now just because you built such a great team on it. You want to talk a little bit about that?
It definitely took a lot of time, but I'll give you it's a full circle, Victor. You might say that I kind of started paving some of the path, but there's people before me who paved that path too. And I have to give credit to those people, like Frank Blau, Doc Rusk. There's a lot of people back in the history that don't get credit. They're gone. People don't really hear about some of the, George Brazil, people like that have paved the way. Maurice Mayo from San Diego. So many people I can think of that gave me the path to get there. Truthfully, here's the thing I look at it. People ask me like, don't you get upset when you see Victor Rancour or Jason Walker? I'm like, hell no. I'm like you. I'm a learner and I never stopped learning. So when I see Victor Rancour do something, I'm like, shit, look what he's doing, guys. I tell my team, we got to get our game up. The biggest motivation is seeing Jason Walker go out there and kill it with his things, or you do it your thing. And that's like, we gotta get out of bed every day and get our shit together. And that's why the lesson I want everybody here to think about today is when you see your competitors bragging about how good they're doing. There's a lot of talk about how people brag on Facebook about everybody says how great they're doing, right? Well, there's two things you can say about that. You can choose an area of negativity and say, F that guy, he just bragging about himself, and you start going into a shell and you retreat into a shell. Or you can say, you know what, I should reach out and talk to that guy because he's a competitor and I should see what he's doing. I bet he would talk to me and have coffee or lunch or something like that. And that's what I don't think people realize, that the guy who you hate, if you actually went and knocked on his door and said hi, he'd probably fucking take you under his wing, right? You know what I'm saying? That's something.
Right? They spend the whole movie, trying to hop over a fence and figure out a way to trick the dog, and they finally fucking get over the fence, and the dog's chasing them, and they chase him all the way back home, and the dog licks him in the face, right? And it's the same concept, right? And the same thing happened with episode number 1 with Ishmael, right? Me and Ishmael was that pit bull on the other side of the fence, and I was trying to get what he had. And instead of going about it away and talking to him and figuring out what we can do to work together and have some agreements, we went the opposite way and decided to fight each other. And with 3 years of us fighting each other, shit, I almost went broke trying to keep up with him. Said he had more money, more power at the time. I tried to keep up with him and almost ran me out of business rather than asking, hey, what'd you do in my size, and try to get up to that way, right? So it's the same thing. Anytime you can get in the room, and you've seen, we were up at Jason's event a couple months ago. Me, Joe, and Jason all at the same event, all speaking, and we're all the same thing. We're just trying to help people. And I think that's where I've kind of transitioned now, kind of stepping back a lot from the training. I'm not doing the traveling. I'm not doing that stuff. I refer everybody out to you guys because I know they're in good hands and I know they're going to treat them good. But one of the things, I feel like we always talk about sales training with you, Joe, and I think that's one of the things that people forget in your business, that you have a whole other side of your business, because sales is one thing, right? But if your operations in your business aren't dialed in, your call center's not dialed in, your operations, your install, whatever it is, if that stuff's not isn't dialed in, it doesn't matter how much you sell. You can't do it the right way. So you want to kind of dive in on what you're doing with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I think what excites me, when I see excited, is when I see these companies out there, like the G company that you now are part ownership of, and Absolute Airflow and Next Gen. I look at it like this. I look at it like, what I happen to know is that there's two kinds of companies that are sales focused. I call it sales culture company, and one that is operation culture. The operation culture is something that basically everybody's a slave to the operation. Now we built the best system that nobody ever used because nobody sold anything, right?
Yeah.
People have to understand this. There's a hierarchy to a company. You have marketing and image and branding at the top. That's why Dan Antonelli is so important to every time I see somebody who's got some janky logo, or I'm like, dude, you got to upgrade, you got to wipe that shit up and clean it up, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, number 2 is, if you market before the doorbell rings, you got to be able to sell after the door going. So sales is number 2 after marketing and branding. And then operation serves at the pleasure of sales. Whereas some company, and then financial is at the bottom. They're the ones who are just giving you the numbers like a scoreboard operator, right? So many times when I go to dysfunctional companies, the operation guy is at the top, or even worse, the financial person who's at the bottom of the organization winds up being at the top making decisions. They never sold anything. They never created anything. They're just overhead. Anytime you have somebody who is overhead in your company at the top making decisions on how you're going to do things, your company's in trouble. And I always say, like, when I saw Absolute Era, what you do, when I see Next Gen, I'm like, I know that no matter what challenge happens, you're going to be able to make enough revenue to get yourself out of it. You know, that it's what the difference between like Sky Services when Travis's dad owned it. It was an operation company, not a sales company, not a sales culture. So when Travis took it over, he became a sales culture. And Travis told me this. He goes, the difference between me and my dad is I'm able to make mistakes and sell my way out of it. I'm able to make the revenue that I'm able to waste thousands of dollars trying to do a marketing thing. It didn't work, but finding that, okay, get rid of that. Now do things that do work. Because the money and the revenue is the engine that allows us to make mistakes and come back from it. If we don't have that sales machine working at the top of the chain, nothing works. So the operation I'm talking about, if I say the process, it starts with the promise that the brand is making. Then you have to execute what the brand is promising, and your sales probably got to reflect that. And then number 3, the operation has to serve at the pleasure of what's happening there. So it's not like, hey, we can't sell that kind of an air cleaner. It's like, dude, that's the kind of air cleaner we're selling. So you better learn how to install it. That's the challenge is like, hey, we don't sell water purifiers. Like you had Halo, right? I saw you training Halo. It's like, oh, we're not plumbers. It's like, well, we're fucking going to learn how to sell it. That's
the conversation I have. So, when Glenn was here with Halo and Glenn's heard me say it plenty of times before, like, we're a sales and marketing organization that happens to do heating and air. We happen to do plumbing, but at the foremost, we are a sales and marketing company. That is it. And that's every organization. If you lead with the idea, a lot of people are so scared of the word sales, right? And when you lead with your whole business is a sales organization, and obviously you got to bring in high level customer service and all those things, but you have to sell first. Like I had a new guy that was in my meeting yesterday, and he's like, and my sales meetings, I'm my background is sales, and I go into very detail on how we do things, why we do it. And obviously I'm expecting sales, right? My sales meetings are like, hey, we need to get some fucking numbers on the board. Right. And he's like, man, I felt like I was in the Wolf of Wall Street yesterday, but I was like, that's our mentality here. Like, but we provide high level customer service every single call. We have our reviews are where they're at because we don't cut corners. We do things the right way, but we're going to sell at a high volume. We're going to sell at a high ticket, and we're going to sell it at a high percentage,
right?
And get that down.
Here's what I'd say there: operational culture organizations are based on the past, what our father did, and what we did before. Sales culture organizations are focused on the present and the future. And that's the best way I can put it there. Hey, we can't change it because Miriam has worked here for 20 years. She won't change. You're looking at the past. You're not looking at the present and the future. So with that being said, the process that marries the sales to the operation so that everybody who even does installs, the guy who delivers parts realizes that he's part of the brand. He's part of the sales process as well. He's the execution of the process. So if you have a sales culture, don't ever say like, oh, my installers don't need to be in this meeting because they just do installs. It's like, dude, these people are communicating with your client at a level that we promised them to communicate. We promised that these guys are going to communicate. We got to make sure they learn how to communicate at the same level we promised. And so the installer is just a critical part of the sale, which is the execution of the sale. And a lot of people forget that the process has got to be designed around what are we honoring the brand promise in the very beginning. That's why that brand is such an important factor there.
Well, one of the things, I talk about it in a lot of my, our meetings and stuff is really, as a business as a whole, you have to reverse engineer everything from the customer's point of view, right? And I think a lot of companies, They talk about, oh, this is how we do things, Well, what is the customer thinking? What is the customer thinking from the outside when they see your business? When they see my trucks, do they think I'm $100 million company, or they think I'm a new chuck in the truck? Well, they think I'm $100 million company. So a lot of people in my area, we're about to hit 4 years in business. People always think that we're some giant franchise or big corporation or something like that. And I'm like, no, we're just a family run operation that's been in business for 4 years. But you wouldn't tell that from my operation. Well, my guy shows up with doormats. He shows up with uniforms. He shows up, with booties. He shows up on time. Nice wrap truck, fully stuffed. All this stuff. That's the stuff that's going to separate you guys. So if you guys are starting out and you guys are looking at, how do I grow my business? How do I do it? Well, guess what? From day one, when I started my business, and my brother's here with me, is my employee number one. Day one, I said, we are going to look like a company that is more expensive, and we are going to charge what expensive companies charge day one. A lot of technicians, that had entrepreneurial seizures and become business owners, they want to be Superman. I'm going to be Superman. I'm going to save everybody. I'm going to be undercutting prices. Those other guys are ripoffs. Well, guess what? You're never going to be able to grow out of that one person, because you're charging what it costs to run one person's life. Can you elaborate on a bit of it? Because obviously you're really big on building packages that are going to be obviously profitable for the company. Talk about pricing yourself right, making sure that you're making enough money to be able to have the nice things. I know when I first talked to you, Joe, you said I'd go into a company and I'd see a company with the uniforms are torn, the truck wraps are old, all this stuff. And you knew right away that company wasn't making money. So you want to kind of talk about how important it is to price yourself right so you can actually provide the stuff they need?
Well, profit, it's an honor to make profit because it helps us serve the employees, the customers, our vendors, and ourselves. Don't forget us. So when we're putting an investment in this as the owners of a company, you deserve to get that return on investment. So everybody has a stake in it. The service business, I laugh at best practice groups that try to get efficiency out of an organization. Get it through your head. This is the most inefficient fucking business that exists on the entire planet. You're taking rolling warehouses with people who are just barely know how to drive these trucks, barely know how to communicate, out there trying to diagnose systems where anything could be wrong. It's like taking a car mechanic and bringing him out to your house and try to fix your car. And then try to keep the schedule full, keep the amount of people staffed with the amount of calls they need. So many problems that are coming at us. And that's why process, like what Michael Gerber talks about in the E-Myth or what you have done here, the process is important because you can't just do it one day. It's got to happen every single day of the year. And pricing yourself, you have to stop trying to, efficiency is something, listen, everything, I always say this, overhead will never go down. So whatever your overhead is, stop trying to save money on your overhead because you didn't buy all that shit. Copy machines and everything else you got, that duck machines and things like that. You didn't buy it because you didn't need it. You bought it because you saw opportunity in getting it. Once you got it, now it's like we have to price that inefficiency of travel time, talk time, the carpets, the uniforms, the wraps. It's all going to be built into the process, and it's got to be built into the price, all those things. So when somebody says like, hey, how much does it cost for your parts? I'd be like, well, I'm hesitant to even tell you that because that's like 5% of your experience. When somebody answered the phone, when you saw our ad, that was something you paid for. When somebody answered the phone, you paid for it. The dispatcher, the software, the insurance guy makes 20% of everything we do. So all this stuff has got to be built into it. In a way, your service people and salespeople have got to be ready to give customers and consumers sort of like a business class in about 30 seconds. They got to be able to say what it takes to do this.
What Joe just said is something that I preach like daily in my business. You need to be communicating with your employees what is going on behind the scenes that costs that part to cost what it does, right? Because everybody gets nervous out there that, oh my God, I'm charging, we charge, and I'll say we charge $850 for a capacitor, okay? Why do I charge $850 for a capacitor? Because I know that's how much money, I know I'm going to make money on that capacitor if I charge $850. If I charge anything less, I have to cut something out, right? I want to be able to run a 5-star business, and to run a 5-star business, I have to charge a certain amount every single day. And everything that we price is all built off of a pricing chart, right? That helps me build it because I know exactly how much profit I want to make. And a lot of people are so scared to make a profit, they would rather lose money and go out there and be nice to the customer and save them that day, and they'd rather go home broke. And I'm the opposite. Our number one core value in my business is profit. It starts with profit. Everything else is going to come down from there. And once you guys realize what it really costs to run that business or run that call, you're not going to be shy about spending the $850 in that on that capacitor. My guys will be able to tell you, hey, look, when we called in, did someone answer the phone right away? Well, yeah. Were we able to get someone out there right away? Well, yeah, you came out the same day. Perfect. Did I show up with a truck fully wrapped, uniforms, parts, everything fully stocked? Well, yeah. Did I have all my tools? Yes. Okay. When I got here, did I seem professional when I trained correctly? Well, yeah. All that stuff costs money. So if you want to cut any of that stuff out, we can get down to the price you want. But at the end of the day, you're paying for the service. And Joe preaches that day in and day out is a service first. But my guys, if you ask them, if you tell them, hey, that's too expensive, within a half a second, they're already going into why we charge what we charge and why it's worth it to spend that money. And if your guys aren't confident in saying that, they're never going to be able to sell at a higher price.
Yeah, I think, it's really, really simple. Just go back and look at what all your costs are. And just make sure you got it for the whole year. Take a look at all the amount of payroll you're going to get and all the things there, and then say, here's the cost of doing business. Now we got to make a profit. We have to make sure we divide that total expense by the amount of profit, the reciprocal of the profit we're trying to get. So now you come up with, like, to me, I try to go for 35 to 32% net profit before taxes, which equals about 25% net after taxes. To do that, it takes a lot of courage, because a lot of people won't get to the other side of the mountain with you, who are more in tune with the operational aspect of it as opposed to the sales aspect of it, right? So you can always tell when somebody's dragging the organization down, because they're focused on doing things, but the activities are not accomplishment. They're not focused on those. So there are people like that who are toxic inside the company, who are very nice. That's the bad part. People who are extremely nice, and you would invite them to dinner with your mom and dad, but they just are not going to be there for profit. They're not tuned in to making a profit.
Yeah, and I've obviously running a business now, and business is always evolving. So like the business you have today is not going to be the business you have in 3 years, 2 years, even 1 year, right? And it's because it's always evolving. And those people that are in that business are going to evolve too, right? And some of those guys that, I think one of the hardest things is looking at a guy that's been with you for a couple of years and realizing he's not the one. And a lot of business owners, what they'll do, instead of replacing that one, is they'll add another person to go do other stuff that the other guy won't do. And now we have two people doing the job that we should have only had one. And we're so scared. Keep in mind, guys, you own this business. You risk your entire life, your entire livelihood, day in and day out for this business, and you're held hostage by a person that won't follow what you're asking. It's your business. And this is something I preach a lot in our webinars and stuff, is that if you go into a business and you don't like being around somebody, you don't like that person, or you don't feel like they're the right person on the team, if you even have that half a second feeling, that person shouldn't be on the boat anymore. You got to be able to know how to cut bait. You got to say, you got to take that dog out back and shoot it in the head. It's just part of the deal.
Or before you shoot him, though, but give him a chance.
Yeah, give him a chance, right?
So here it is.
I went straight to murder, Joe. Uncle's gonna calm it down, okay? I got the guillotine out and shit already. I'm like, dead man walking, dead man.
Well, here's what I say though. It's like when people, here's the kiss of death. You've heard this so many times too. I get people, hey, here's what we got to do to get the training done. It's like people are like, I don't know, how do you get your guys to do this? They ask me, and I'm like, what else are you giving them to do beside this? The question is, you're the one giving people assignments to do things. Why are you giving them something else beside the thing you want them to do? I said, so if you want people to do stuff in your company, you've designed a process. So that's in this part of what we'll talk about today. I want to make sure we get this in, is that we have to design the experience we want for customers, and then backwards engineer everything else to fit around that process. Once we've done that, we need to define it so that when you get a truck wrapped, we know here's the process to get the truck wrapped. We call this company, we tell them here's the dimensions of the trucks, here's the wrap we're going to use, here's the art we're going to use, here's the time frame where we bring it in, here's how we bring it in. So there's a process to do everything. The lazy part about most people is they do these processes, but they don't document the process to create like a manual about how this company works. So when you have a new employee has no clue, because we did it before, but we can't remember what we told the last 10 people. So now we have that. So finding the process, creating priorities, like just bullet points about benchmarks about each thing we do. What's the in-home experience benchmarks? This, and this. We're going to say hello this way. we're going to be diagnosing this way. Everybody's got their own little twists on it. You got things a little different than I got it. Doesn't mean one thing's wrong or thing's better. It just means that I approach it a little different. And both things, two different things could still work. But the problem is that if we don't document it, we can't train new people to come in and do it that way. Yeah. And that's like when you did like the Service Hero app, which is brilliant. You did two things. You gave value to the public, but you also gave value to your team, because in a way you documented with video about what that experience looks like when you're with your own people, to give them the app and say, watch these assignments and do that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things too, is just like you, right? We can't clone ourselves. There's not going to be another Victor. I'm not going to have that, but I want to be able to get documented, because I think when I started my business, I used to have this feeling that everybody thought the same way that I thought. And I realized I think really fucked up. Like, I'm just like, man, 1,000,000 miles an hour. There's not people like that. So as a business owner, as you go along, what happens is you start getting angry all the time, because you think everybody's thinking the same way. You're thinking the same thing. You're all of a sudden, you're pissed off all the time. You're firing people, or you're whatever it is. And all your employees, if you really pay attention, they're screaming, what do you fucking want? What do you want? Right, Tell me how you want it done. I'll do it. But we're screaming at them, why haven't you fucking done it?
That's it. Well, it's like, I always say this when people say to me, like, Joe, how do you do all these videos and how do you do all these Facebook posts and things? I said, well, there's a dual purpose there. One is for the public, and it's a marketing opportunity to give people to say, here's what I know. If you want to know more, come and see me. But the biggest thing is my own people reading those posts and going, that's what he wants. That's what this is. So they're getting trained in my process of marketing. So that's where marketing is such an important factor, because the marketing you do, in a way, teaches your own employees about how we do a tune-up or how we do our process, because you're promising that process in your marketing or when somebody answers the phone. And that is something that needs to be documented. You can't just have 10 different people answering the phone a different way. There's got to be a script, benchmarks to that script to make sure that it can sound a little different, but there's got to be things we're making a promise to those things, so technicians know we promised this, and that's it.
Well, obviously in my business, our slogan since day one is, if you're not absolutely happy, it's absolutely free, right? And this is something a lot of people are like, what, are you crazy? Like, you can't say that. People are going to cheat you and do all that. We haven't ran into a lot of cheating. What we have ran into is that customer that's not our customer. We're charging this much. They don't want to pay that much. And we go out there and we diagnose it. We do all this stuff. And my guys know, if the customer says we're too expensive, we don't want to go forward, we're not charging them a diagnostic fee. We're not charging them anything. Hey, look, you're not 100% happy. We're not going to take your money. We don't want any money that's not happy. And we found that we could still be high priced. We don't get the bad reviews. We say, hey, look, I'll refer you to a cheaper company. If that's the route you want to go, here you go. We're going to separate as friends, because I promise you, we're going to leave happy. When I leave here, we're going to leave as friends. We might not be the company for you. If you go find someone else and you find that they don't provide the level of service that we do, and you want to do business with us, let us know. But a lot of people ask me all the time, how can you charge so much and not get bad reviews? It's because when we leave there, we're leaving there on a good note. We're making sure that our promise to the customer, if you're not absolutely happy, it's absolutely free. Same thing with our equipment. Everything that we do before we leave there, we make sure that customer's happy. We also let them know, you got to give us an opportunity to make you happy, right? It's not like, hey, day one, rip it out. No, give us an opportunity. If we can't make it right, I'll take it out. But I've never had to do it, because we know that we, as a company, we know what we stand for and what we're going to do. We're going to provide the best installations, the best customer service, the best diagnosing, the best call center, whatever it is, we're going to provide the best, so we don't have those complaints. So if you guys are a company, and you guys, in a lot of companies are in their head, hey, we'll give you 100% satisfaction guarantee, but they won't put it in writing for some reason. I'm like, I ask companies all the time, why won't you put a guarantee in writing? But if a customer called in tomorrow upset, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to make it right. So why wouldn't you put that in writing to make that customer feel confident?
You're not doing something that you wouldn't do anyway.
Yeah.
You do. Here's the crime. Everybody's doing what you're promising, but they're afraid to promise it, even though they do it. And here's the thing about it. What I love about what you just said there, to recap it, and I don't think it really gets enough balance or enough. What you said there is brilliant, and I don't think it gets enough attention. I think you went through it so quick. I want to make sure people understand what you just heard there. You give people the freedom. Your people are like a gatekeeper of opportunity in your company, and you're giving people in your company freedom to say, you know what, I don't think this customer is going to be our kind of customer. You know what, here's a competitor you should use who'd be cheaper than us. If you're looking for that kind of a person, that would be there. So I think a lot of people don't realize that. Sometimes people hear me and they're like, you're telling people to use another company. It's like, dude, number one, we have a process and a customer service experience. If some customers don't want that experience, they want a different, like do-it-yourself experience, you can just tell them, listen, if you want to do it yourself, I have no problem with that. But you just got to do that without me. Do it yourself means do it yourself. Or doing it cheaper, we're not going to be a good company here at Absolute Airflow if we do it cheaper. But we will do it better. You will have a more permanent solution. You're going to get better service. If you want that, we can help you there. So I think what you've done here, which is the most brilliant thing, which I hope your people, it reverberates with them. And I hope everybody else hears this from you today, which is that you're giving your employees freedom to say, here's the process we have. We know we're going to do this process. If the customer resists the process too much, we can try to convince them, but then eventually if they get to the point where they're not able to be convinced, you just say, you know what, maybe it'd just be better if you use somebody else.
Yeah.
And so we don't waste, because here's how I look at it. The biggest reason that salespeople fail is because they're unwilling to tell customers that, I don't think we're going to be a good fit based on what you're looking for me to do. You're looking for me to come out here, give you the lowest price and email it to you. That's not the process we use. Here's our process. We diagnose the system. We diagnose your family. We create premium mid-range economy solutions to fit your perfect needs. And then we give you the money interest-free to get the job done. If you're not interested in that, we should use somebody else because that's how we do it. So to give your employees permission, that's the big thing I want people to get, the big golden nugget from you. Give your employees permission to say, you know what, I don't think it is a fit right now. Maybe they have to call their manager before they do that. Hey, this is not David. It's not working with this guy. What do you think? Yeah, just get out of there because that guy sounds toxic, and just get out with our skin.
Well, you'd be surprised how many times that you take it away from the customer and you say that. So I talk to sales guys all the time, and they're like, "Well, this guy wants this discount." And I said, "Look, and I've said this in the house, and this one I don't suggest saying all the time because it takes some big balls to say it, and I put in the sweat equity and the time with this customer to say it." But I'm at the table and the lady's like, well, I want the cheapest guy. And I said, look, I literally packed up my stuff, folded up my stuff, and I've gone through a 3-hour presentation. I've done all this stuff. I've crossed every T and dotted every I. And I said, look, I looked this customer straight in the eye. I said, look, everybody needs to make a mistake once in their life. And it sounds like this is one that you're ready to make. Go ahead and give me a call if you ever need us in the future. But like I told you before, this is what it costs for us to run a 5-star business and be in business 10 years from now. I packed up my stuff and I walked out the door. Guess what that lady did? She chased me down. She said, okay, let's go ahead and get it done. You know what most sales guys would do? They're calling and saying, hey, can I do it for that price? Well, if you don't stand behind your price, you don't believe in your price with conviction, then you're never going to sell it at that price, right? I ran, my guys asked me to ride with them last month. I ran 8 calls. I sold $240,000. They said, what the fuck? Like I remember all my other guys are having a hard time selling over 20,000. They just don't feel comfortable. And I'm selling 30, 40. I think I sold a $60,000 job. And it's just that confidence that I believe in the product that we're offering. And I believe that we're the best company on the planet for them. And if you don't have that conviction or belief or the willingness to walk away, that customer is never going to believe you. A lot of time when a customer is telling you no, all they want you to do is resell them, right? They're saying, well, I got to think about it. Well, there's something they didn't like that you have to resell them, or they say the price is high. When someone says the price is high, all that is an observation. Just say, yes, the price is high, but this is why. Most sales guys go the opposite. Well, let me see if I can discount. No. The reason it is this high is because X, Y, and Z. And when you do that, you'll find that the customer is more confident in you and you're going to sell a hell of a lot more deals. But if you start scrambling when someone says the price is high, then they think you're a liar, they think you're a cheater, and you're just trying to get one over on them.
I do the exact same thing you do. I even go further. I say, you know what? It sounds like you're about to make a big mistake. You're doing a really good job of buying a system that's not going to work really good. You're doing a really good job of it. If that's what you're trying to do, you're doing a good job of that. I tell people. I said, but if you're going to do that, you got to do it without me. Okay, I'm not going to provide that kind of service. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you though. Don't be ashamed when it doesn't work out. I'm going to give him my number and my phone number to call me my cell phone number directly. You call me because here's what's going to happen. You're going to find that guy who's cheaper. He's going to cut corners and you're going to be unhappy. Don't be afraid to call me back to inspect his work, and I'll tell you everything he did wrong. And don't be ashamed to do that because I know you're going to feel bad, but just don't feel bad because you're my friend. Don't feel bad about it.
But the problem is when Joe says this, right, and when I say it, there's things that go on before you can say things like this, right? And this is what part of the stuff I teach in my training is like, you got to put the equity in. The customer doesn't care how much you know until they know how much they don't care how much. What's it saying? They don't know how much you care or know until they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right?
That's it.
And you want to make sure that these customers, you've done everything possible before you get to that point where you're saying that stuff. because you have to earn the right to quote and you have to earn the right to say that kind of stuff. Because if you put the effort in, then you've earned it, in my opinion, to be able to say what you feel. But a lot of customers, all it takes is that confidence in what you believe in. And so many sales guys make the mistake. They really think that customer just wants price, but they wouldn't still be having a conversation with you if it was just price.
Well, like I said before in that Facebook post I just made last week, make a friend before you make a sale. But here's the thing about it. As a friend, like this, put it this way, it's easy to be a friend when things are going good and everybody agrees with what you're doing. It's hard to be a friend when your friend is doing something that's toxic and hurting his family, because a good friend would shoot straight with their friend and tell them, hey, listen, if you're going to be involved with drugs or if you're going to be involved with crime or something like that, that's something you can do on your own. But and we can still be friends, but I just can't involve my family with your family anymore. Because as a friend, I wouldn't be a good friend if I didn't tell you that you need to get your act straightened out here, right? Because a good friend is invested in that relationship. And just like if you had a brother-in-law who was married to your sister who was an alcoholic, if you were a good brother-in-law, you would, in a friendly way, take him off to the side and tell him, listen, you're not taking care of my sister. You're not taking care of yourself mostly. And the kids that you have are going to pay this price. This is something that a real friend and a real family member, a real friend does. So friendship brings a burden of two things. One, obviously enjoy the good time, because 90% of the time we're going to have a great time as friends. But there's 10% of the time when I see something toxic, and I want to make sure that I tell people that as a friend, I want to see you straighten out. I want to see you get better, because I'm not here. I don't want to have a friend that's toxic and I have to apologize for. I want to have a friend that I can be proud of, right? And so same with you and your customer. You give your friendship to your customer. Obviously, when they agree with everything you want to do, then God bless. It's just a good sale. I just went, and probably if you're confident, 80% of people are going to do that. There's 20% I call cement heads. They just got a different way of doing it. And you got to be able to take them under your wing too and try to help them. And you might be able to help, as many as, 5 to 6% more of those, but there's probably going to be 14% that no matter what, they just got a way of doing it. And that's it. You got to be able to say no to those people in a way. But you have to, like I said, everything else, give that friendship, diagnose the system, you're investing. And then they see the investment. And then you're like, okay, now as a friend, we can't take away the money part of this job. Because if we do that, we're taking away from your family. Because that's what you got to tell people. It's not taking away from our price. It's taking away from the benefits your family's going to get if we did that.
I think one of the things I say, I said even early in my calls if I'm running, I said, look, I don't care if you go with anybody. I don't care if you go with me or anybody else. But when I leave here, I want you to be more educated than you were before. And then also, when you get the other quotes, give me an opportunity to go over them with you to make sure you're making the right choice for you and your family. Maybe it's not my company. Maybe it is. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure you make the right choice for you and your family. And when you say it like that, that customer starts to trust you and like you. But I say it I throw my hands up. I don't care if you go with me or somebody else, right? And the big part is just building that trust with the customer, making them understand that you really truly care. And I think that's part of what you train, Joe, is that you got to put service first. You got to put the customer first. You got to care about them. And once you do care about them, you'll see that you're obviously your sales are going to grow, your paychecks are going to grow, your business is going to grow. So beyond the sales part, Joe, you are an operator of a business. What do you think, if you were to start a business today, what is something you would say to somebody? Where would you start at now? Knowing what you've been through all these companies, where do you think you would start today? Like day one, what would be the first thing you would do?
I would number one, design the business first. I would design it and make benchmark priorities. Like for instance, for customer service, I'd say number one job is have the scripts prepared to be able to follow your scripts. Number two, answer the phone after you have your scripts. So to be benchmark one, have the script booked in front of you or on your computer screen so you can know what you're going to say when people answer the phone. Design it. Number two, let's make sure we now execute by answering the phone and following that script. Number three, if there's any customer concerns that come in, we have a process for that. Follow the process. Tell people thank you for your concern. It's going to help our company get better. Let me go. You called the right person. There's a script we have for that, right? So that's why scripts are so important for CSR, because people who don't document the communication we're going to make with our clients. And let's put it this way: technicians are a little different than the CSRs. CSRs, they're fluid. They're going to come and go a little bit more rapidly because some people are just part-time and stuff like that. So we have to take like Michael Gerber said, take an average person and turn them into somebody who is very competent because we've given them the words. So there's the documentation of the process, the benchmarks, have the scripts, follow the answer to call, here's how you do, here's how you answer the phone, here's how you use the phone system, here's how and you make these things like describe what we expect. If it's slow, immediately make outbound calls to get planned service on the board. So you see the schedule has only got one call per tech. We need to get 3 to 4. Well, somebody's got to start making outbound like immediately. So forget about answering incoming calls. Let's start making outbound ones because we're not getting any incoming. So these are all things that you have to design for when things are going good and when they're overflowed. Make sure you prioritize the calls to reschedule some of them because you can't do them all. You're going to make some customers pissed off and get bad reviews again. So I would say this: every job has a design to do it right. Technicians. Make the greeting a professional greeting, let people know what you're going to do, then tell them, here's we're going to diagnose, here's a system of diagnosis. You should document that system of diagnosis. Shouldn't just be like, this guy does it this way, the customer experience has got to be even for everybody. It's got to be fair. So that's all customers want from us is fairness. Yeah. Like, my neighbor got this for that price. I got that for that price. What doesn't make sense is that why did he get all that service for that price and I got shit for this price? Same price. That's what doesn't make sense. I always say that the price is irrelevant. Whatever you need to charge to make the profit, it's only going to be there if the customer service experience supports that price and creates value at that price. But I think documenting, if I started from square, number one, I design it. I'd listen to people like you and listen to people like me who have already designed businesses. And by the way, our design we had in 1996 or whatever is different than the process because of software. So the process changes. Yeah. You make a manual, it's only good for about a month. The next month you got to change what is different. A new software, a different, we have a company cam or something you're going to get, something you're going to add into your business creates a whole new process. And the tentacles change other people's jobs too, right? The people who are doing the project management have to find those photographs. That's got to change what they do. So one change in your company might equal 3 different people's processes changing. So somebody should be full-time invested in changing those processes, updating those processes, having them to begin with. But I think every owner who's here right now could probably say, if I could do something, my dream would be to stop my business, redesign this shit, and then start it again.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing Ken Goodrich talks about a lot, man. It's just making sure you have their processes dialed into where it doesn't matter who you plug into that position, they're going to still be able to be successful. And I think, if I was to start over, day one, obviously there's a lot of different things I would do. And that's some stuff I'm covering in my book that I'm releasing. And at my event, I'll be releasing my book, and it's going to cover everything I did when I started and what I would do knowing now, starting then, right? So I'm going to cover the shit I had to go through. And if I was to do it now, this is what I would have done to avoid that shit. And it's a lot, right? So, a lot of us, we have entrepreneurial seizures. I had no plan on starting a business. I literally came up with the idea, and 5 days later, I have a business. I've never ran a business, never operated a business, never dealt with customers, didn't have a credit card processing machine. It was cash, it was a check or cash. It was paid directly to me. I didn't have anything in place. I didn't even have a license. And if I was to go tell myself today, day one, I said, look, put a plan in place. If you guys know what your plan is to start a business, I have an employee right now that he's going to start a business January 1st. Guess what? He came to me. He told me this is what he's going to do. And I'm teaching him exactly how to start his business. So he starts day one. It doesn't have to go through the shit I have to go through. A lot of business owners are so scared of their employees going to start businesses and all this stuff. And I'm just not, because I know that it's going to take a special person to come compete with me. And it's a very special person. I know what it goes into it, but I truly want him to succeed. And I said, look, if I was to start over, this is what I would do. So he's getting all these things in place. He's already working with Dan Antonelli. He's already doing this. He's already doing this. And he's planning to start his business. He's not starting in my market. So I have no problem helping him out, but he's going to start day one on 100 miles ahead of where I was, just because he asked the right questions and planned. So if you guys are start thinking like, I'm going to start my business, or you are just a single guy and you want to start expanding your business, when you're not working, sit down and draw out the perfect business, draw out what you want out of a business, and then draw out if you're a customer, what would you want out of a home service business? And then try to figure out how those two can combine, and then go make that happen, right? Figure out what people you're going to need, what you're going to need in place, what kind of marketing you're going to need to do. How are you going to market, right? Because one of the things I always talk about with marketing is imagine yourself as a customer. What does your company make you feel like? What does your advertising make you feel like? I have some guys and they want, flames on their shirt and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, that's not selling to women. Women don't care about that stuff. Women want something that's inviting. And guess what? 70% of the decisions now are made by women and not by men.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to design a business, I would design it about how women would think, right? My wife's at home. How would she feel when this guy showed up?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of stuff I was thinking about, especially like your truck wraps and all this stuff. It's just like, I think I saw with the chili nipples one. You see that?
I have a company in Colorado, Smith Plumbing, who Mike, the guy, a friend of mine named Mike, owns it, and he immediately made his wife, who was like a supermodel, she's really attractive, made her the face of the company. All the trucks are painted pink. All the competitors hate the way that company looks and operates. All the customers love it. Yeah. So all the competitors are like, why does he do that? So the thing is this, guys, you're not designing the company for yourself, what you like, you're designing it to what people like. But here's the thing about it. Process, number one. Number two, the skeleton of the process, which are priorities. Number three, write a few paragraphs as to how we execute those priorities. And then at the end of it, evaluate the financial outcomes of the process, because the process you have, it's possible it's flawed. That's the thing about it. We put this process in place. Pick a process, pick a lane, and do it. Document it, and then evaluate. Like I had on the Service Rocket group, the Facebook group, the guy had a plumber say, "Oh, we're plumbers. We don't do those kind of numbers." And I'm like, dude, how many repipe? I mean, every time there's a leaking pipe, you should be offering a repipe. Every time there's a water heater, it could be a repipe. It could be water purification. It should be Wi-Fi connected shut up valve. I said, if you're not getting $20,000 calls to $30,000 calls as a plumber, that means you're just not, your process is off. You're not diagnosing big enough. You're not making solutions big enough. That's the process is wrong.
I got a buddy, Jordan Beebe, he's flying a jet and driving, Rolls Royces after 4 years of running a plumbing company. So to say that there's no money, the money's not in plumbing, it's not true. You're just not seeing where the money is.
That's it.
You're not focusing on
and so evaluate the process. If you say, well, these guys, and that's why the transparency of like a Facebook, but I hate Facebook, everybody says, right? Truth is, that's the place where you get transparency in the marketplace. You're able to see like, this guy brags $45,000 sale. And you're like, I've never had one of it. If you're saying to yourself, I've never had one of those, that guy is probably selling 3 or 4 of them a week, right? And routinely 20,000 is just happening like nothing.
Yeah.
That's like your $250 ticket. It's 20,000 for that guy, right? You're saying you have a choice. You can go negative and say that guy's ripping people off because you're ignorant and you don't know. So now you blame the guy who's getting the result, as opposed to, man, how could I get that result? Be positive and say, what am I doing when he has all these 5-star reviews and he's getting 45,000 on a sale? The customers don't lie. You can't pay for that many reviews before Google will figure it out. Yeah. So if you got 5-star reviews and $45,000 sales, pay attention and say, you know what? My process is flawed. I need to find something else that's going to get me somewhere close to that. Because right now I'm at 6,000 a sale or 7,000 a sale. And so evaluate. So process, document the priorities, flesh it out, and then evaluate. If the evaluation says this ain't working, the difference between you and Ishmael and the guys who are killing it, and this was like Joseph G., the guy from the G up in Atlanta, you guys do, they were a slave to the father's process.
Yep.
When you got involved, you fired them up. You're like, shit, why are we? That's the past. We're not dealing with the past. We're dealing with the future. And so they like all of a sudden got courage and they start changing things. And that's when the company blew up. That's the difference. So they rapidly change it when the process isn't working.
A lot of people ask, with the G brothers, right? And they're, I'm super proud of those guys. They've grown a great business out there in Gainesville. And, a lot of people, like, we partnered with them. They didn't need the money. They didn't need anything that we brought to the table. They didn't even use it. All they needed was a new process, a new way of doing business. And when they changed the way they do business in that market, no one else is doing business the way that I do it. So he took what I do here in Absolute Airflow and they replicated it in Gainesville. All of a sudden, their average ticket almost doubled. Their customers are happier. They're getting more reviews. They're growing. They rebranded with Dan. All this stuff magically started happening just because they believed in what they were doing and believed in the process and change. They were willing to change. So many guys that they say, I want to do it. I'm going to do it. They said, fuck you. Today, every employee, you sign this. This is how we do business now. And if you don't want to sign it, you can get the hell out. Guess what? They had 5-6 employees that walked out. You know what they had the next 2 weeks? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 new employees that were willing to follow the process that they had. Just understand, guys, you own the business.
Mhm.
You put the risk out there. You should get the reward. But when you run a business, you own a business, and you put your whole livelihood online. If they don't want to follow your process, they don't want to do it the way you do it. Don't be scared to cut those people, because everybody's so scared. I can't find any more people. No, you cannot afford to keep that person that's not going to follow your process. It's going to kill your culture, and it's going to kill the business. So if you have that employee, and I talk a lot about this, and it sounds like an asshole, but there's always there's every fucking company, and I've been there. Every company has that one employee where you don't even like to be around. You come in and you tiptoe around your own fucking employee. I promise you. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I would go in there tomorrow and fire him, because I've done it. And when I did it, it was fucking liberating.
It's always your right hand guy too, the guy who's like somehow he thinks I'll do anything for you except for what you want him to do, right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this with the G story. I watched that over the beginning and the end. So you kind of taking them to the end over here. But truthfully, they started out with some watered down best practice stuff to a certain degree. They started implementing that. Then they got involved with me, and they're like, I don't think our people are ready for this. I'm like, listen, you got to get the courage to say this. You come in and say a second voice. Sometimes it's like waves on the ocean, right? Like the first one comes in, it's like a little bit. The next one comes a little bit more. Next one comes. So sometimes it takes. That's why when people say, do I get upset when I see like you working with a client or Jason? I said, no. Because every one of these things are like a ripple or a wave that kind of gets people to move that direction, washes the old shit away, and pushes the new thing in place. And I just want the client to be.
You want to know something funny, Joe? Is that most people that hire me hire you, then hire Jason, because guess why? They now have money. They have money to spend. Right. They have money to invest, and they see it change. Like it's wild. The people that use Joe,
we all share clients.
We all share clients because at the end of the day, those clients make money. Wow, surprise. You actually do stuff, you do things in your operation that make money. And
people ask me, if like, well, should I get out of Nexstar? It's like, no, you should be able to afford Nexstar. But go ahead and get EGIA if you want to, get Service Roundtable, get Victor, get Jason, because these are engines that are pushing your company toward profit. And if you miss one of those cylinders, somebody's got something in each one of those cylinders that are going to help you if you don't push it that direction. Now, the same token is that sometimes it can't happen all at once. Even the Dan Antonelli thing. First, they had to make sure the operation got right. Now we can afford to change the rebrand. And the rebrand is less risky when we're making money, obviously.
100%. Well, and that kind of brings us to the next thing. So, obviously we have our event coming up in October, October 20th to 22nd. I'm bringing all those people together. I got Joe there, Jason, me, I can't, how do you say her name? The girl that works.
Shreya.
Shreya is going to be speaking. All these different trainers are going to be there, and we're all going to bring a different thing to the table and give, but the main goals as bringing all these people together is to give everybody a different opportunity, a different way to look at things, a different way to start viewing how they can run their business. And someone's going to find one of those is going to be the way they like it. Some people might not be like me. I'm brash. I'm outline. Like I'm a little wild. Joe might be more your style. The younger guy, or Jason might be more of that style. But you're going to find something that fits within your business and something that your guys are going to be able to fall behind, because you have to be able to sell it to your guys. And once they buy in, then it doesn't matter which one you like, as long as it's working, going the right direction. And that's literally why I'm throwing this event. And people are like, "Why are you doing this?" I want to change the way that we do business in the industry, and I want everybody to come together. And I'm throwing this big ass event. And I was telling Joe, I was like, if obviously I put out a lot of money on everything like that, but I don't really care about the money, because when this thing is over, I'm going to change the way this industry is. I want to make this industry exciting. I want to pull everybody together. I want to be able to have this red carpet treatment. I feel like our industry is for so long has been, the blue collar, behind the scenes, but no, we have to change the way we think. We have private equity coming into this. We have this big opportunity in front of us, and we have to seize it and start showing up and pretending like, no, we are the red carpet people. We are the people that people want to be like now. And the trades are coming together, and the trades are going to be the future of where people are going to be looking for jobs. And that's what my event's going to be about. So I'm pretty excited about having you on the stage.
I agree with you. And I think with this much information at your fingertips in one event, if you don't come to it, you got to have a screw loose, seriously, just to be plain spoken about it. I'm excited. I told you before, I said I blocked off the whole week because I intend to get there early and get to see people in the hall. Because 90% of what you get from something like this is between the time the seminars are and things like that.
Yeah,
you get the stuff on the stage and stuff like that, but after, when we're sitting around talking at a round table with a beer or bourbon, in my case, which I'm open to any bourbon people want to buy me. You know, I have a limit, but but I will. A cigar and bourbon is always welcome. But you know, you have a chance to meet and network with people. That's where the opportunity is here, to not just have the people and the speakers, but each other that you've seen for so many months on Facebook and things, to get together and see what's real and what's a mirage, right? And I would say this: I would recommend that anybody who is looking to take. Here's what I say: with the private equity and things, there's so much of that coming into this business now. Every business owner, even if you're a startup to experienced businesses, needs to position to sell themselves, because you are selling yourself regardless of whether you sell it to a private equity firm or you yourself buy the business yourself. Every day you're buying your business. So either you sell it, you like you did, you got back here to absolute airflow. You come back home. You're like, okay, I'm buying this business again. You know, I got to make sure that it's worthy for me to run.
Yeah.
I'm buying it every day. You're buying this. You're paying money to employees, to vendors. You're paying for this business and also making a profit. Or you're selling it to yourself, or you're selling it to a different private equity or whatever. You should be in a position to say, if something happens to you, it's good for private equity, or if I want to keep it for generations, I'm selling it to my grandson or selling it to my son, right? If you got your daughter, I've seen, she's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't not look at her without smiling. Yeah. She is so amazing. And I love the effort you're making. I know that a lot of the things you've done have taken you away from your family, but I know that getting back to there is something that's needed, right? Because we all need to have that centering point. But the truth is that this might be something that she's going to get. You want to make sure you're selling this to her in a way. She's got to be able to say, oh my God, I get this. This is so amazing. It's so nice. As opposed to, why did I get this shit show you gave me? Yeah. Right. So either you're leaving it that way, or you're going to sell it to the private equity people. And if you have a shitty business, try and sell it to private equity. It'll be predatory. They're going to wind up taking advantage of you because you're desperate.
Because you got to build the business like you're going to own it. You know, obviously you want to build it to be able to sell it, but you have to build it like you're going to operate it. And that's some of the stuff we're going to teach at the event. So I have if you guys understand who we have in the room, obviously, you know, you guys saw it yesterday announced, we got a 4-time Super Bowl champion, Joe Montana, is going to be there. And I brought him in there just because, you know, you guys deserve to have something special. You guys be able to take some photos with him, hear from Joe, meet with him, stuff like I know Uncle Joe's over here excited about it. But I got Ed Milet, who's one of the best motivational speakers in the world. If you've never read one of his books, like every training that he does, pretty much everyone says they walk out of the room crying. I got Ryan Stewman, who's built this, you know, I think it's almost a $30 million training organization that helps business owners get to the next level. Brad Lee is one of the top sales trainers in the country. And then on top of that, we have Tommy Mello, Ishmael Valdez, Wyatt Hempworth, who's built an amazing business over there at Any Hour Services in Utah. And now they're expanding nationwide. Some of the best women in the industry. Ellen Rohr is going to be speaking from Zoom Drain. Just the amount of talent that's going to be on the stage is insane. But for me, if you've never been to one of my events or you didn't get to come last year, it's not just the event. It's like, it's a different thing. I don't do it like an old trade show. There's nothing boring. It's going to be exciting the entire time, but then I throw a big after party. So I have a big black tie event that the first night I'm going to have a live performance. I got a live band playing some beautiful music. I'll have cigar rollers. I'll have this whole VIP treatment for you guys where you'll be able to interact with all the speakers and all the guests that are there. And then the following night, we have a Halloween party where I have DJ Paulie D, I think his name, from the Jersey Shore. Yeah. Jersey Shore guys. Paulie D is going to be DJing the second night for a Halloween party. So come dress up, have a great time, come interact. So I don't just throw just the speaking event. It's not just a speaking engagement. I'm throwing big ass parties. I'm spending a hell of a lot of money. I'm over $1 million on the event already because I want to just change the way we think about home services. I want to make this industry exciting, and I'm going to create something where people are going to want to come into this industry. The young guys are getting out of school. They're going to start seeing all the social media stuff and seeing the things that we're doing in the trades, and they're going to come wanting to work for you. We're going to change the whole demographic that no one wants to come work to where people are begging to come work in the trades. And that's kind of what my future goal is and what I kind of see as my position in this industry going forward. So I'm really excited. I'm excited to have you there, Joe. Hopefully everybody that, you know, is listening to this podcast is going to attend the event. Tickets are going to be sold out before the event happens. Also, the room block is just about sold out already. So if you guys are trying to stay at Resort World, go ahead and get your tickets now. Make sure you get your room blocks now. Joe, you have anything else you want to add before this is over?
No, I just say I look forward. I want everybody at that event. Definitely attend. I would definitely say come and seek me out. Like I said, in the hallways or at those in the evening events. That's the value there, guys, is that women and ladies, not just guys, ladies and gentlemen, right? And there are so many powerful women that are going to be there too.
Yep.
Bring your wife if she's in the business. Bring any people who are. A lot of times the women don't get the credit, and I think this is something they can see what somebody who's powerful looks like in this business as their gender. So the stereotype isn't just that they're assistants, that they're leaders, and I want everybody to see that. So I look forward. I'm excited about it, and I definitely recommend everybody attend.
Well, Joe, thank you for joining us on the Service Rocket podcast. It's been a pleasure, man. It's good to see you in person. I can't wait to see you in October. Joe, pleasure, man. Thank you.
Pleasure. Have a great one, buddy.
You guys have a good rest of your day. We'll see you on episode 4 next week.